Relatives with my football squad today. Mike Tannenbaum, what was your favorite pick of this year's draft?
Ashton Jeanty to the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a statement pick, much the way we saw Jim Harbaugh take Joe Alt a year ago. This is Pete Carroll saying, I am here. This is Beast Mode 2.0. I love this fit. I love this player. And we're going to run the ball a whole heck of a lot. AFC West, get ready.
D. Wood, what was the player who you think will have the most immediate impact in year one?
I'm going with another running back, Omarion Hampton, going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Listen, we know the MO of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a physical type coach, wants to establish a line of scrimmage, run the football. We've been seeing how they've been, really building up their offensive line. Now you get the explosive running back to go behind that offensive line.
Peter Schrager, what was your favorite moment of the 3 days of the draft?
Here's a first, a day 3 draft prospect coming out of the green room. This is Barron Sorrell, drafted by the Packers, the hometown team. He wanted to have a draft experience. The NFL flew him in Friday. He spent Friday and Saturday in the green room, and Roger Goodell got to give him a hug despite being a 4th-round pick. They did the Lambeau leap at Lambeau afterwards. It's an amazing experience. We love this for the NFL. Cool moment at the NFL draft.
The city of Green Bay was an extraordinary host for this event. Graziano, I left it to clear the decks for you. What was the biggest surprise of the draft?
Colston Loveland going before. Oh, I'm kidding. It was Shedeur Sanders still being there and available in the 5th round on Saturday. This is a guy that many people had projected to go in the 1st round, and if not, certainly in the 2nd or 3rd. So when we went to bed Friday night and he still hadn't been picked, I think everybody was pretty surprised.
Now, you saw the excitement there when he did get selected from everyone, including the dog. The dogs were a big part of the stories. This with Tyler Shuck had the dog, and the Sanders family had the dog. Okay, so this obviously was the overwhelming story of the draft, and as I said on Friday night, I think it qualifies as one of, if not the biggest story in draft history for a player who had been widely projected at the beginning of the process to go near the top of the 1st round. By the end of the process, the question was, does he go late 1st round or slip into the 2nd? For him to wind up going deep into the 3rd day was stunning. There's no other word to describe it but stunning. By now, you know that. So let's answer the question, why did this happen as best we can? Dan, we'll start with you.
I think the answer is tied to the process you're referring to. The pre-draft process did him no favors. He didn't do the thing. He didn't, work out at the combine. He didn't do things that people want guys to do when you're trying to determine, is this guy worth taking? He was not viewed by the league as an elite quarterback prospect. I think only Cam Ward among the quarterbacks in this class was. So to separate yourself from Jackson Dart, who the Giants liked better, or Tyler Shuck, who the Saints liked better, you have to do some things. And Shedeur Sanders, during the pre-draft process, from everything I've been told, didn't help himself too much. He had some positive experiences and interviews with teams, but he also had some ones that didn't go very well at all. And I think there was a sense, people looked back at Dion in the fall saying, we're going to pull an Eli, and like, is he trying to steer himself away from certain teams? There was just a lot going on. And I think by the time we get to the 3rd round and teams are thinking about backup quarterbacks, now you have, well, if we bring him in as our backup quarterback, is there going to be a whole circus around it? Nobody wants that with their backup quarterback. So I think it was an accumulation of things that start with, he wasn't viewed as an elite prospect, and then he didn't do anything in the months leading up to the draft to really help himself.
Well, let's ask then someone who has been on the other side of that process. Mike, you have conducted the process for 2 different teams. What is your takeaway, not only from that experience, from having been there all weekend and talked to as many people as you have? Why did this happen?
Well, similar to what Graz says, when your ability is not beyond reproach, the pre-draft process, Greeny, matters. Let's put it into 2 buckets. One is the objective competition. So we have a graphic here. When you look at the other quarterbacks that were drafted before Shedeur Sanders, they all competed in some way. Now, this is not outcome determinative. There are plenty of other quarterbacks that didn't do a lot, be it run a 40, participate at the combine. But just to compare Jackson Dart to Shedeur, Jackson Dart worked out at the combine. He had a great Senior Bowl week. So if you're the Giants and you're looking at competition and you're looking at one guy that's doing everything and one guy that's doing nothing, and again, Shedeur has good ability. He didn't have great ability. But the other part, which is probably even more important, Greeny, is the pre-draft process is an interview process. I remember one time at the Jets, we got on a private plane with our owner, Mr. Johnson, and we went out with our head coach and our offensive coordinator. We sent a 20-page playbook to a prospect. When we got there, he was awful. We got back on the plane. I apologized to Woody. Said, boy, I can't, that was a big waste of time. That quarterback still won in the first round and didn't have a good career. There were plenty of times at the combine where a quarterback would come in and he would blame a wide receiver or a play caller for an interception. We took that quarterback off the board. Now, in fairness, I was not in these interviews with Shedeur Sanders, but it is reasonable to conclude, and talking to many others, that he had some interviews that were very bumpy. And when that happens and your ability isn't an A, that's what's going to happen. And with that said, I am absolutely stunned that he won the 5th round. He was my second quarterback. But at the end of the day, Greeny, teams have the right to make decisions based on the pre-draft process. These are job interviews. And to Shedeur's credit, he came out last night and said, you know what, I could have handled it better. And if I was the Cleveland Browns today, I'd put my arm around him and say, that's ancient history. Go have a great career.
Look, I think this is a combination of things. To your point, you can do that stuff. And Caleb Williams last year met with one team. Right. Refused any other interviews, did not work at the combine, did not do anything, said, I'm only interviewing with the Bears, don't even bother talking to me. And he went 1st overall. You have to be Caleb Williams' style of quarterback in that it is a bar none 1st-round prospect. As much as I want to go back and research why it went down in the pre-draft process, and we can go through all the stuff, I think the media is complicit in this as well. We also thought that Shedeur Sanders was a 1st-round prospect. And every mock draft you looked at up until the draft had Shedeur Sanders as a 1st-round mock pick. So I think this is a bigger picture story of where did it all go wrong. And this is one of the first prospects that was targeted as a 1st-round pick the day of the draft to go the 5th round. I also think, just talking to NFL teams, and Graz mentioned it, and Mike, of course, you've mentioned it as well, you can have an unorthodox style of pre-draft, and you can have no agent, and you can say things like, I'm going to come in there, and the second I come in there, I'm going to change your culture. And if you're the starting quarterback in the 1st overall pick or a 1st-round pick, you're ready to run through a wall. To be a backup quarterback, that stuff might actually hurt you in a way that other quarterbacks who come in and say, I'm just here to work, I want to help the starter, might have a bigger advantage in that process.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. We can keep it going, but let's get to the player on the other edge of the table here. D. Wood, what was your takeaway as you watched all of this unfold this weekend?
I think the NFL sent a message, said, you're not that dude. Honestly, that's the message. The overwhelming message I saw when Shedeur slid to the 5th round, the NFL was basically saying, you're not that guy. You're good, but you're not that guy. Because I'm here to tell everyone out there, everyone who watches the NFL draft, who loves the NFL, trust me when I tell you this. If you're that guy, they're going to pick you in the 1st round. Because the NFL and all these teams are in the winning business. If you can help a team win, they are going to pick you. The NFL clearly felt that Shedeur Sanders was a good prospect, but he wasn't what the young people call, he wasn't him, okay? And then on top of that, you factor in